Can you see how many people are?
Yes.
How many?
Dyer is
80?
We have 89 people that have joined us.
Okay.
That is wonderful. All right. Almost about to start here. Well, actually, what we'll do in the seconds leading up, we'll go ahead and call the Town Hall and Board of Directors meeting for March 19th, 2020 to order. Can we verify that we have a quorum?
Yes, Mr. President, we do have a quorum of the Board of Directors. We have all the directors present except for Director Payton, who is participating from home and via the video.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. A couple things that we're going to start with is, one second, I'm getting a little bit of an echo there. Okay. We had to take this measure, obviously, because of everything that's going on. We're trying to find that balance between getting information out to all of you, as well as the health crisis with COVID-19 currently. So we appreciate you joining us here. We know this is a little bit unconventional, but these are unconventional times, and we're trying to do our best to keep everything moving forward. Just so you know, everyone that is with us online will be on mute so that we can have a nice streamlined meeting. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end, more on that in a second. Any questions that you have during the meeting can be emailed into us at HOA. We've already put this link out there, or that email address out there, but it's HOA@chandlerslanding.org. And we'll have some board members that are fielding those as they come in. And then at the very end of the meeting, we will go through a Q&A session for the ones that were submitted previous to the meeting starting, and then those that were submitted during the meeting. We're also aware that there is a town hall from Governor Abbott, and so we want you to do what you feel is best on that. So if you feel like you need to move away from this to watch that, it's totally fine. This is going to all be recorded and posted, the entire meeting. So you will be able to rewatch that as much as you want to moving forward. And we'll also have documents that are that we're going to be talking about also attached with that link. As far as tonight, the process is going to be walking through the lead up timeline that got us to this point from the fire. And the processes that we've gone through. Then we're going to look into the scope of the proposed renovations and the financial plan. And then we'll finish with Q&A for what I had mentioned before, the previous, or the questions that were submitted prior and the ones during the meeting via the HOA@chandlerslanding.org. So we're going to keep pushing through this. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's move right into the timeline and process recap. All right.
Good evening. Just to run over the timeline here, just to bring everybody up to date. Obviously, I think everyone's aware we had a fire on October 18th, and since that time, the landing has been closed. We've worked with the insurance company to get our claim paid, which took approximately almost a month to work through that. The equipment was ordered. This is all custom-made equipment. I think we've been through this a little bit, but net is on January 10th, after quite a bit of coordination and work with Encore and all of our vendors and the gas company, we were able to get the power turned back on at the landing. And then a few weeks later, we were able to satisfy the city of Rockwall to get the natural gas restored to the landing. Unfortunately, shortly after that time, in working with the city of Rockwall, the fire department, to re-energize and recharge the fire sprinkler system, we had a burst of the water main, a separate water main that feeds the fire system, and that 200 feet of pipe had to be replaced. We also, since that time, which we're going to lead up to and show you here, We retain the services of Mershon Architects. They're a Rockwell firm. They're a architectural design build firm. And we also were able then to hire a local firm to perform a 3D scan so that we would have accurate as-built of the facility, the interior and the exterior, for Mershon to use for some of the design work that you're going to see this evening. And so that really couldn't take place until after we had the electricity on. So since January, we've been working on these plans. We're on about the fourth or fifth iteration with that. The other piece of this is, which we'll talk about, is KemperSports. Their experts came in, spent 3 or 4 days here walking through the facility with us, giving us counsel on changes that need to be made to make the landing a facility from the standpoint of having the greatest chance for success here, to relieve some of the financial burdens we've been paying over the last three years.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so we're going to move into the renovation plans and some conceptual imagery that will go with it.
Start with the site plan.
Okay. All right. So you want to?
So we're going to show you some architectural renderings tonight. This happens to be a site plan, and this is of the exterior. There's just a few things that are part of the plan. These are primarily related to ADA parking. So for the handicap parking, so up on the upper right part of the screen where the golf cart, approximately where the golf cart parking is today, we'll be moving the handicap parking from its present location over there so that we can meet the statute on that. We'll take the existing golf cart or handicap parking and repurpose that for golf cart parking. You'll also see that we'll be also putting in, replacing the awning that's over the walkway with a more permanent structure, and that will extend out over the first lane of the driveway so that you can actually pull up and get out of the car without getting soaked as we're getting rained on now. And there'll be some modifications to the island on the other side of that so that we have a decent pass-through lane there.
And then
up the stairs from the existing parking lot will be replaced, and there will also be approximately a 4-foot wide sidewalk that will go along the front of the parking spaces at the top and the first rows, so that you can walk in front of the cars and not between the cars to get to the steps.
all right.
And then here is a rendering of what the awning or the canopy will look like. This is just conceptual at this point. It will be wood posts, things like that. We're in that stage, but this will just give you an idea of what it could look like once it's installed.
Yeah, as we go through all of this tonight, just know that these are all conceptual, and we've got some renderings to start trying to get everyone's mind in the right direction, but definitely not necessarily what will end up being there. So, all right, moving inside to the main level. At the middle, you'll see the entrance where we would normally enter the building, and you'll see 2 really nice restrooms, good size, that fit all of the ADA requirements. Now the men and women are technically switched or swapped from where their current location is, and then you'll also notice that there is a elevator that is sandwiched in between, and that will run to downstairs. Moving to the left of that, you'll notice that everything is now open. So the monkey bar and the lower offices and whatnot, the suggestion is that we actually open all of that up so that when you walk in, you're seeing clear sight lines all the way through to the glass that will showcase off our pool and the marina and the lake beyond. I'm going to talk about some of the
Yes.
soft seating here.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Val D'Souza with KemperSports. We've been working with the board on developing this site plan. So I'm going to talk through some of the programming and some of the imagery that we created with the board. The large image on the left is a representation of the soft seating as diners and participants come into the building, where it will be a transition into the dining room. So this is where we envision people gathering and waiting for their dinner party to arrive. This is also suitable for just sitting down and reading a book, or waiting for somebody at the club to get done with their activities, or waiting for people to join you. The images on the right are simply meant for the color palette that you can get a feel for what we're going for. The lighter, brighter colors, the blues, to blend in with the nautical themes that will blend in throughout the clubhouse. Again, these are just conceptual. You will see more finite and definitive planning as we work with designers. So this will be the view of the dining room. Again, this is a architectural rendering drawing. This doesn't represent what the final look will be from the interior designers when we pick the furniture and the fixtures and the decor, but you can see here how everything is brightened up. The fireplace in the middle of the room will become a focal point. In addition to the views of the lake and the sunsets and the marina, you'll have this beautiful centerpiece that will set the tone for a very diverse dining environment that is capable of competing with anything in the Rockwall area. This is additional dining room images. Again, there's a transition. The existing bar will stay where it's located, but the images on the right will depict our plan and our recommendation to the board of transitioning from the bar to communal seating, which is elevated fixed tables where groups can sit and get to know each other. It's becoming a very new trend in this space, and we think it's ideal for landing in a neighborhood restaurant. And then it will transition to either booths or tables, as you see over there on the bottom right image. So that's a good flow of how the bar area will be transformed to be suitable, again, for many different tastes and many different demands for a dining experience. So the patio is also one of the key attributes and key assets of the landing. So to enhance that, we're looking to improve the flooring, the fixtures, and then the rest is taken care of by Mother Nature. The views of the lake, the sunsets, there will be improvements in the decor, but making the patio space the ideal location for outdoor dining in Rockwall. There are many places. One of our competitive advantages in this market is going to be the outdoor dining experience and views lakeside. So we really want to enhance that as we go through this process. The banquet room is obviously one of our key revenue producers to make this facility self-sustaining and financially stable over the long term. So these are some images. The image on the left, again, is the architectural rendering of it. They misplaced the fixtures with restaurant fixtures. Those will not be the final fixtures. It's more, the fixtures will look more like the images on the right, but you can see how lighter colors up in the ceiling will enhance the beams and the beautiful features that they bring to the room. And then we're going to enhance with better flooring, things that will help make this the premier wedding and banquet destination, not just in Rockwall, but in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for people seeking that lakeside experience for their parties and banquets. And again, another view of the banquet room, just a photo sample, but not an actual rendering at this time.
All right, moving on to the lower level deck. Here, Chip, you want to walk us through this?
So in the lower level is in pretty bad shape. Actually, the majority of the lower level, with the exception of the current meeting room that we have and what was formerly the fitness center, will be demoed and rebuilt. So this is just a rendering here. Our intent is to have a bar and casual dining downstairs, and then we'll have a lakeside deck, if you will, outside where the windows are today, facing the marina. It's actually a great view down there, and that deck will be there. We'll be installing some type of retractable doors so that on a nice afternoon like today, we'll be able to open those up and you can sit out there, enjoy the views of the lake, and even eat a meal out there. The existing snack bar, if you will be able to serve not only casual dining downstairs, but also we'll be able to serve food and other drinks for folks that are out at the pool.
So here's some of those images. The top left image is more of a long-term image. This is how we foresee the pool lower level patio bar evolving to. It will function as it does now, as being a walk-up window with outdoor seating for people taking a break from the pool, getting in some shade, but wanting something to eat or drink. But that is our vision for it long-term, as the facility evolves and grows, that it becomes, we achieve that resort feel and look for the residents to enjoy this space, instead of it being an afterthought and a dark space that's unutilized and not monetized. The rest of the images really show the look and feel that we're going to shoot for with the interior designers when the spaces are built. We foresee expanding the patio and building that deck closer to the water and adding some strategic fire pits in the right place at the right time is really going to set up to be the gathering place in the neighborhood to watch sunsets and gather for meeting new residents and just getting to know different residents in the community. So this is going to be one of the areas that we think will become the most popular gathering place for residents.
All right, going back to the lower level.
Downstairs, for the rest of the facility that some of you probably have never seen, there will be a central hallway where there will be an elevator lobby. Across from that hallway will be new men's and women's restroom. There will also be locker facilities and showers. The former fitness center, our hope is to rededicate that as a fitness center. That's probably most likely in a phase 2, but we want to build for the future and have that available. There will also be a series of offices across along the back or the front wall of the building for administrative staff, general managers. Some of those will be storage facilities. They're just marked as offices now. The two exciting things, we'll have what we've shown here is a boardroom. This will be an opportunity for us to have companies come in for meetings. We'll have the appropriate AV equipment and connections there for to hold business meetings in that space. We'll be moving the bridal suite over adjacent to the side entrance there. It will have its own restroom facility, and this will make it much easier for bridal parties to get out to the wedding venue outside on the lawn. And the space beyond that is where it's existing storage and electrical closets. Those will all remain the same.
All right.
So again, some of the representations, one of the things that is very a competitive advantage if it's done right is a bridal suite for weddings. Obviously we have the view. We're going to have a beautiful ballroom. Having the right bridal suite for bridal parties to convene during the day on their big day and get dressed and have privacy is a key thing. This will be, as Chip indicated, right there by the exit to the lower level to give quick access to the ceremony site as well, so the bride can have the privacy from the rest of the guests at the wedding. So these are some of the images that we foresee this being, more so also the one on the left where you have that brightened look, the color palette that matches the nautical themes. The boardroom, as Chip mentioned, we foresee a significant amount of upside for selling boardroom space and monetizing this space with corporate meetings that range as small as 8 up to 16, maybe 20, where groups can come to the facility to meet privately, do trainings, stay for lunch, more importantly, finish their meetings, and then stay for dinner. So we anticipate this being a key place for the facility. The ceremony site obviously is the gazebo as it stands now, which is a good location, but it does need to be modified, and it can be done so without a significant amount of investment. Most of the new outdoor wedding ceremony sites are going to more of a theme of arches and less structure. So the gazebo, which is showing its age right now and starting to lose its appeal, can be replaced with something less costly and one that's movable, so the ceremony site can also adjust to brides with different tastes. So again, the view on the right there is how we foresee the wedding ceremony site evolving to in the short term as we proceed.
Yeah, and before we move too far past this on the wedding side of things, let's go back up in your minds to the ballroom. What we're talking about right now is expanding the north wall, so that little cut in when you're out on the back side looking back at the building, that cutout where the kitchen is on the upper left hand side, actually moving that out roughly
12 feet.
12
Yes.
feet. And so that would be potentially a phase 2, or maybe done at the same time as all of the downstairs side of things. It is a focus to get the main level done initially, so that we can get it open as quickly as possible for everyone, for us, for you guys. Everyone wants it that way, and so we hear that and we understand, and we're pushing on that side of things.
Yeah, and just historically, for some of you don't know, but in the original plans for the landing when it was constructed, there actually was a phase 2 project that just never got built to expand what we've referred to as a ballroom, to take it out even with the end of the building to effectively double the size of it. But in working with Kemper, one of the observations they had is that it would make the space more attractive to some of the larger weddings in the area, because we'll be able to seat the large wedding parties. Those are typically more profitable, and so we're in the stages right now of looking at that, having the architects and engineers evaluate the feasibility of doing that.
And that would take us significantly into a very coveted percentage of facilities that can not just host those, but then have a waterfront
Correct.
view. Really takes us to a very unique and special place there.
And lastly, one thing that you won't see on the plans, but virtually all of the glass in the building is, first off, not tempered glass, and it's all old. It's single pane. It's not energy efficient. So part of the takeaway for this is to replace all the glass with energy efficient glass, all the doors, so what's commonly referred to as the storefront, so the front doors, all the side doors that we use, most of those are they're all beyond their useful life. So those in the plans are to replace all the glass and all the doors with new glass and doors.
Okay. Next. All right, move over here.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about money. The first is that our existing note that we have on the building of a little over 1.4 million is 3.5 years into a 5-year note. So it comes where it needs to be refinanced at this point. The good news is that these are some of the lowest long-term borrowing costs in our time. So this can be fairly inexpensive time to do a refinance. While we were talking to the bank about refinancing, we also talked to them about getting an extended amount of money to finance some of these things on the wish list that we'd like to do. And we're talking about getting a line of credit of about 2.5 million. That doesn't mean we're going to borrow all 2.5 million the first day they say yes, but it would be as projects come along to do it. The interest rate would be below 4%. We've been talking with the bank about it. We're talking about doing a 20 or 30-year amortization with probably a 5 or 10-year call, similar to the note we have right now. But the good news is we'd probably be able to arrange the first 2 or 3 years interest only, which would make it where our payments to the bank would not be significantly different than what we're paying right now. So we can get the money to be able to do all these improvements and not materially affect us in our cash flow in a negative way. And in long term, it would be very positive because we wouldn't be having to do all these projects a little at a time as we go through it. So for those that are concerned about the dues or the assessments that you have to pay, this would be a very positive way to get a lot of things done without having to raise your assessments all the time to do it. So really on the finance side, I've really got nothing but good news. Also, we've already finished our audit for 2019, which puts us in an excellent position to talk to banks and financial institutions about borrowing money. But the state of finances for your homeowner association is good.
All right. All right. And now we move into the Q&A session. So I guess we're gonna read. Oh, renovation timeline. Sorry, apologize.
Okay, so we have been working with Mershon. They've had their architects, engineers, their construction subcontractors in reviewing the building. We anticipate, well, there's a couple of things that to back up that are good news. So we completed what's required by the city of Rockwall to have an asbestos inspection of the building. That was actually great news. We have three areas of concern. Nothing is major. Any remediation that needs to be done will be very, very minor. So the key component is none of the sheetrock or any of the sheetrock drywall mud or whatever it's referred to has asbestos in it. There's a few other small items, some flooring downstairs, and actually the mastic that holds the mirrors on the wall, but those are easy to resolve. We anticipate receiving we've asked Mershon to take the lead to apply for a demolition permit because of the length of time that it takes to receive that permit. We anticipate the city of Rockwall, we've met all the requirements of the information they need for that. We would expect to have that hopefully by the 1st of April in that time frame is what it looks like at this time.
Before moving on, I want to do another reminder that this is all being recorded, and we're going to put that up so that you can review all of this in detail, as well as supplementing documentation that we will upload with all of that. You'll be able to stop on each screen, press pause, review everything. So we want to make sure that you're aware on that side of things.
Can I make an announcement?
Yeah. All right. Moving into the Q&A side of things.
Hey everyone, it's Lizzie. I've been monitoring any questions online and I haven't seen any. So if it's easier for you to text me to my phone, it's 972-413-0083. Please state your name and your address and your question, and I'll present it to the board. Thank you.
Can you say your number one more time?
Absolutely. It's 972-413-0083. Text me and I can read it out loud for everyone. Name, address, please.
Okay. All right. So moving in, let me get this out of the way there. Moving into the Q&A side of things, we're going to start with our pre-submitted questions. And Lee, you're going to read them to us, and then Chip and I will do our best to answer them.
So I'm going to read the person who submitted it and also their address. And I've condensed some of the questions down because they were long, so just for time. First question was from Angel Reed at 109 Scepter. She would like to know, are we only making legal ADA required repairs, and what are we doing for extras or ones, or is there a 3, 5, 10-year plan for improvements?
I can answer that. So we anticipate that we'll make the required ADA upgrades, but also while we're at it, because it's just more cost effective and efficient rather than starting and stopping, to make as many of the improvements that we've covered tonight in the presentation. Part of this will be, dependent on how our financial situation is with the bank in terms of lending the money. We are working with Mershon on getting firm pricing to complete all of the items that we've talked about tonight in the presentation.
In our discussions, when looking at the ADA side, it's going to be so invasive with the elevator and the restrooms and whatnot. It makes the most sense to have that construction dust there, that you do all of the rest of it. What we don't want to do is we don't want to get a year down the road and then have to shut down operations for a month or two so that we can complete other projects. So the concept right now is that we demo everything all at once as far as the things that need to be demoed upstairs and downstairs, but then we return and focus on elevator and main floor, and then get that open. We can still have construction going on downstairs as well as the potential expansion on the north side of the building. So that's,
yeah, just keep in mind here, we're dealing with a building that's 45 years old. It's had a significant amount of deferred maintenance, and while back in 2016 there was quite a bit of work done in terms of the exterior siding, some roofing. We'll actually be having finishing up a new roof as a result of a hail claim with the insurance company. We have just a little bit more to do on that. There's been, I think we're all aware of the odor when we come in the door. We think we've resolved some of that in doing some plumbing after the fire, repairing that. But all of these things will be up to current codes, but very little in the building, except for the electrical work that was done back in 2016-17. All the electrical work we've done so far is all up to code, but there's so many other things that are out of current code. This will bring the facility up to the current building codes for the city of Rockwall.
okay. Question 2.
Question 2 is from David Wrightson at 5803 Yacht Club. He'd like to know when the landing will resume operations.
Soon. No, just kidding, David. I know you're tired of that answer. This is a really interesting time. We're not really sure how this might impact construction, and it could actually be very beneficial, or it might not. So there are still some variables that are very difficult to pin down. That said, in a perfect world, I believe we're looking from a demo standpoint.
Yeah, demo, if all goes well, we would say 3 weeks. Probably reconstruction, depending on, there's going to always be some surprises in a building this age. Realistically, I wouldn't anticipate having things, I mean, with all that's going on today and in Rockwall and in Texas, to give you a firm date is just not possible. We have potentially supply chain issues in terms of material, things of that nature. But what we do know is that demo will take about 3 weeks, and after here soon in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have a more firm time frame that we can give you on when we anticipate we'd be able to get things back open. I will tell you, barring some just total shutdown, you know, certainly before the end of the summer, I'm able to say that.
Yeah.
That's as and the pool, and the important thing is the pool will be open, permitting, meaning that we're allowed to open the pool. The pools will be open, and as they always have, typically in the early May timeframe.
Okay. All right. Next question.
The next question is also from Mr. Wrightson, who would like to know who will be running the landing's operations.
Yeah. So operations will be managed by Kemper, and they will also be responsible for the GM and staff.
Yeah, so KemperSports will be overseeing all of the management. So when it's appropriate, when we have a firm opening date that we can rely on, we will start recruiting the staff. That will start with the general manager, chef, salesperson, and evolve from there. So we will have all oversight of management.
All right, next question.
And I think this question's been answered, but from also Mr. Wright. So what remains to be done before the operations can resume?
Yeah, we did just answer that. Yep.
The next question is from Stacy Dyer, 228 Sovereign Court. What is the cost and timeline for the minimal requirements to reopen?
All right, minimal requirements. Let's talk about that. This kind of goes back to the very first question of what is the base things that we need to do from an ADA standpoint. And what we, as we have gone down this path, what we've realized is that in doing those, they're so invasive that it makes sense to go ahead and take care of all of it so that we're not having to shut down operations again in the future.
Right. So when you look at 2 restrooms upstairs, the elevator, the parking, 2 restrooms downstairs, you just look at the plans that we've shown here tonight. The bulk of that's the majority of the work that will be done. The redoing of the space downstairs beyond that is really, there's no structural walls there, so that's not as invasive. Once you get to that point, you might as well just go and finish it out. So we don't have a specific breakdown of the numbers from that perspective, but when you see what has to happen, that's the bulk of the expense.
Right. All right. Next question.
Okay. The next question is also from Stacy. What components of the proposed programming cannot be accomplished in the current facility?
Want to speak to that, or
What proponents of?
What components of the proposed programming cannot be accomplished?
I guess I'm not sure what programming she's worried about hosting. Do y'all?
Think you're
The programming that we've discussed.
Oh, that we will do.
Yeah.
So I thought it was about what we can't do. Sorry. So our plan for the landing is to, at a minimum, have events for residents and all participants that enjoy the space to participate in every single month. So, for instance, although we'll miss it this year because of the closure, but also because of what's going on in the current environment, an example would be Easter brunch. We would be preparing for Easter brunch as we speak now, and we will be at this time next year. Then we come Mother's Day brunch, Father's Day barbecues, our 4th of July event. Then we'd have something for August for back to school pool parties, right through the holidays, including Thanksgiving hosted there at the landing for those that didn't want to have it at their house, which is actually in the state of Texas at many of my properties, something that's actually very popular. And then a brunch with Santa, New Year's Eve party, and then the whole cycle starts over again. That schedule will continue to be built upon year over year as we interact with the social committee and all the other communities existing within the community to find out what each one of them wants to do in hosting an event at the landing. So they will come up with some ideas that we will then adopt in our management plan to make sure we're fulfilling the needs of what the committees and the residents in the community want to see done at the landing.
Okay. All right.
The next question is also from Stacy. What percentage of dues are designated for repayment of the loan for landing?
So there isn't any allotment that is built into it. If we wanted to look at it from what is currently on the note, it roughly comes down to about $10 a month, which is around 6.5% of your dues payment. So it's fairly it's a small chunk. We have a lot of different amenities here, and so they all take money. The landing is the only one of them that can actually make us money in reality. And so it's a unique property, and it's a unique aspect that it has, but we also always want to make sure that we keep in mind that we're all paying towards all of the amenities so that any of us can use them when we want to. And that is the beauty of living here in this slice of paradise, as I like to call it.
What is plan B if we spend the recommended funds to complete the plan as designed by Kemper and the landing does not produce the revenue?
I have enough confidence in KemperSports that we won't have to go to Plan B, not to put any pressure on Val. We've had that discussion. They're very experienced in running facilities of this type, and for communities like ours, I just feel confident. I know Bruce and Scott negotiated the contract with them. This isn't a property that they needed to take on. It's a property they wanted to take on. They see the potential here. They're in love with it. They spend a lot of time behind the scenes. You may not see them yet, but they're ramping up. They're chomping at the bit to get going here. So for me, I see no plan B at this point necessary to even consider.
Yeah, as the old adage goes, location, 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 and boy, do we have one. I mean, it's an absolutely fabulous location. The thing that we have been suffering from, or let's say this property has been suffering from, has been the 35 years of deferred maintenance, multiple owners, many owners taking things out, not really putting back into the property. And so we're essentially, in acquiring the property back, we're taking all of that in, and we're making the updates that if it had been properly managed and we had owned it over the last 35 years, that should have been done while we owned it. And we're just taking it. Scott, you have something there?
Yeah, I think that one of the important things when we talk about the finances is, one, we're not betting farm. This is not a really high stakes gamble on our homeowner association. The loan is very manageable, even if we got zero revenue from the club. If we just ran a pool and tennis courts and maybe a small coldest beer, hottest burger snack bar, that we'd be able to manage it financially. So I think that it's a very conservative financial plan.
Okay.
I'd like to say something real quick.
Okay.
I've been with Morton Steakhouse, as most of you know, for 20 years. I wish I had this view. I wish I had this space. I wish I had this team to push it forward. I am committed completely to driving business to the landing. It's in no conflict with what I'm doing now. I know that we can get the job done. I do $1 million in sales at Morton Steakhouse. I can drive business down there. So Kemper has my full support, and I think it will have all of your support too.
And speaking of Kemper.
Yeah, and I also want to reiterate that in our third-party management scenario, we still will report to the board, and that is as often as they set the tone for it to be. So everything we do is going to be under the board direction. Our job is to manage and run the facility, drive business in group sales and restaurant sales, but also to report to the board on what we're doing and what our plans are month, 2 month, 3 months out in advance. So we will write the budgets, the board will have approval, or they can push them back and ask us to make changes. So we operate under the direction of the board, just in a much more organized manner to where the board doesn't have to manage a lot of employees. We do that. The board will manage us based on giving us their recommendations and feedback based on our operating plans and budgets.
Okay. All right, next question.
And the next question is also from Cece. How is the board going to ensure that the landing operates as a separate entity and not subject to the whims of each newly elected board?
We just answered that.
That is a great question, and it pretty much was just answered. But this is a hot button for me. Looking at the amount of time that has to go into operating a facility like that, it needs full-time guidance, and that's what Kemper brings to the table. So we are very, very grateful to have them on board, and this is a way that for future boards, they won't have to struggle or fight with an operation down there that they may or may not be able to handle. And I would say, based upon our history so far, that's not our, how do you put it?
Core competence.
It's not our core competency. It's not in our wheelhouse.
We have a lot of online questions coming in.
Okay.
I just wanted to remind everyone that Lee has the questions that were sent in earlier first, and then your online will be answered. All the ones that were texted me will be answered tonight.
What's the plan to provide a regularly open gathering place for the residents that have supported the club throughout the years?
I guess I'll touch on that. the goal of what we're doing is we're making this a very diverse atmosphere so that everyone feels welcome. We're trying to move that more into a situation where it isn't, we have some groups that are seem to sometimes be against each other and whatnot. We want to move away from that. This is a great neighborhood and we want to be great neighbors to each other. And so we're not trying to put it into a situation where any group has preference over another. The goal is that all feel welcome and all can go down there, and there'll be multiple spaces to hang out and enjoy this incredible view and atmosphere that we have.
Yes, there will be karaoke.
Oh,
Yes, there will be live music. Those things are all going to take
Have to.
place. That's, some of the culture here within the community. Kemper's aware of that. They'll work to program those in as appropriate. And, one of the nice things is this will be a give and take, and we'll be able to, pass on. The board's job is to pass on what the residents are wanting to see down there, whether it's programs for children, things like that. We're going to rely on their expertise on how to execute that.
Yep. Very good. All right.
All right, this is Stacy's last question, and she has a recommendation that we do whatever we can to reopen. And maybe after 6 months of seeing how fabulous Kemper is, do the renovations then. Why don't we go ahead and just reopen now and do renovations later?
Okay. So I think you'll have seen this from everything we've been discussing thus far. We are thinking long range. We're trying to think what is going to benefit us over the next 30 years. So we're trying to set ourselves up for success. And sometimes in doing that, to lay a good foundation, you don't do it quickly. There's a lot of questions. The questions are very consistent with how quickly can we get it open? My personal opinion on that is I feel like over the last 20 years, we've had a lot of let's do something as inexpensive or quick as possible. And I think that we're seeing the challenges that line of thinking creates. And so in my perspective, this is one where we need to do it differently than we've done it before and do it right so that we can have a really healthy long-term scenario that we're looking at.
I think the other thing is from just a general construction cost standpoint, and just Randy Lindstetter, who's on our board, is in this profession full-time, will tell you that starting and stopping is, one, not efficient, and two, it's not cost-effective to do it that way. Would be better served for a little bit more pain, staying closed a little bit longer, and taking care of it all at one time. Once we're able to lock the bids in, we're in a better position then just to control the cost versus coming back, restaging, working around space that's usable. It's just better to plow through it, get it done at one time. He's over here shaking his head yes.
All right.
Okay, the next question is from Kathy Hovey from 110 Clipper Court, and the question that you just answered, I think, kind of led to this answer. She asked, during this time where our nation's in crisis and COVID-19 is everywhere, should we keep the club closed during this time, and why are we moving forward?
Well, the club is closed, and it's going to stay closed. But I think we have to look at it from a long-range perspective. And this is a crisis, obviously, that impacts all of us. And I think we'll work through it as a community and as a country and state. Those things will all get resolved, and we just see it from a long-range planning to just keep pushing forward with it at this time.
Yes, we're doing our best not to have any knee-jerk reactions to very serious matters, but there's still going to be people in 6 months that are want to get married. If there's not, we have bigger problems and none of this matters. So we're really positive about the future and looking forward towards making it the absolute best space that it can be.
Deborah Beavers from 604 Courageous wants to know more about what Kemper's been up to during this time, and because we are paying them every month, and what have they been up to?
We can do it together. Okay. All right.
So we started in August. We started as a consulting capacity to help the board understand what was going on with the state of the property at that time when it was operating. So that was last summer, early last summer in August. So we interviewed both current and past board members. We also interviewed regular patrons and people that visit the landing on a regular basis, because we really wanted to get balanced feedback on what's working, what's not working. Then we did a deep dive into financials, the point of sale system, the kitchen and how it operated. We dove into every aspect of the landing and how it was functioning. And we delivered the report that the board shared with you, outlining our perspective on what we found. After that, we did also publish a survey to the community for them to voice their opinion and to really get a solid foundation from a bigger group of people in a shorter format, so not everybody had to sit through interviews, so that we could then take that information and synthesize that into the voice of the community to the board. So we did that. We presented that to the board. And shortly after that, I believe, is when the fire took place. Yep. So after the fire took place, then we assisted the board with shutting down the operation, handling the tough decisions that had to be made and how we would do it, and how we would recommend to do it, and managing through all of that situation. In the meantime, we still then worked with the board on what do we do with the building. Obviously, as Chip indicated at the start, information was changing and moving, and with the insurance companies and all the challenges that the board had to overcome, some of which out of their control, such as the tornadoes rolling through Dallas that slowed down the insurance process. We advised the board all the way through that. And most recently, as we've ramped up the renovation plan, we've been going through the facility with the board members, then with architects, and we developed the space plan, a lot of which you've seen tonight for the first time. That space plan took some time because we had to go back and reference the surveys and other feedback to make sure what we were presenting was what the general consensus of the community was looking for in a facility that could fulfill the tastes and fulfill the desires of a diverse community. So that space plan took some time, and we've been working with them and also the architect now to get to where we are today.
Yeah, I would say that we have a weekly call, but we actually speak probably daily. Yeah. So number of hours that your board members as well as Kemper is putting into this on a daily basis. So I'm so grateful that they've been there with us and to help give us the perspective, because this is what they do. This is their core competency. This is in their wheelhouse. And so we want to let professionals lead us where we need to let professionals lead us. And we are a unique community, and I hear that a lot. But just because we're a unique community doesn't mean that all of the rules don't apply to us. There's definitely a lot of rules that do still apply to us, and for sure this facility in how it operates.
And on this call, they're not presenting tonight because they don't live here in the area, and travel wasn't feasible for them to get here, nor very called for, given the circumstances in our operating environment. But there's two other marketing resources dedicated to this property alone. Jared Whitman and Annie Carrillo, they are working on building the marketing plans and building the sales plans for the property, not just when it reopens under the new building and the images you've seen, but also right now. They're fielding the calls. It's a very difficult situation right now because we have a closed building that's going to change. Plus, we also have government intervention in some non-essential businesses. We're in the hospitality space, so it's a very slippery slope right now. But we are managing those leads so that when we can book business before we even reopen, we will book that business. But we also are doing it in a manner that is smart and financially sound. So that's also taking place. In addition, we have our National Food and Beverage Director involved. His name is John Demeglio. John has been advising the board on how to rebuild the kitchen and what equipment is necessary to operate the facility efficiently and smart so that when we reopen and when the facility reaches full potential, the margin of the business is proper.
Very good.
I have one last thing to state that Kemper's done behind the scenes for us is they've, because of their relationships in the food service industry, the size and the scale they are, they've been able to help us mitigate some costs for equipment that we were renting that we're not using to get the vendors to essentially stop the rent for the time being. And to help return some equipment that hadn't been utilized. Previous managers down there were still paying for and not using. So they've done a really great job with their experts coming in and helping us reduce some expenses during the time that we're closed.
Okay. All right. Next question.
And our final question is from Linda Honeycutt.
Final pre-question.
Correct.
I still have plenty. I just want to make that, they're going to click off, so.
Her address is 5102 Yacht Club. She'd like to know, in addition to renovating the landing, are there still plans to upgrade the pool to more of a resort style pool?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. In fact, we are in research right now on pool equipment. We're in research on pool pergolas, some type of shade structures that will all come together and make it more of a resort style feel. That said, part of the resort style feel is how it's set up. Whenever you've gone to a nice resort pool, you'll notice that the chairs are all in order and whatnot. That is not what we historically have every day. So that will be a part of either the Kemper staff or maintenance to make sure that we're doing probably twice a day, resetting up everything so that it maintains nice order and structure down there. All right, moving into...
All right, my turn, yay. Chip Allen, thanks for being so patient. Chip was our first text and call. He said, or asked, if 2.5 million line of credit, what is the estimate for phase one? Chip is at 204 Sovereign. And then he also asked, is the 2.5 inclusive of the existing debt or in addition to? And that might be a question for Scott.
Yeah, there'd be two separate decisions. One, refinancing the existing 1.4 million, which we need to do anyway because it matures in 18 months. So that needs to be done, which is why we're already talking to the bank. And then the second, the 2.5 million would bring us a total of 3.9 million altogether. And we probably roll both notes all into just one note. So we just have a single payment. That help?
Hey, Dennis Lewis. Dennis at 310 Harbor Landing had a question already asked, but he said there was another question. He wanted to know if making the wall around the pool could look better. And in the contract with KemperSports, if their losses are in the operation of the landing, does Kemper absorb those losses?
Okay, I'll answer the first one. If I'm understanding it correctly, we're talking about the wall, the large retaining wall that goes down to the water. So there's been some discussion on that, and not sure how this will end up, but one thought is that we end up actually using that as a feature to welcome people to the club. So for instance, instead of just concrete, think navy blue painted background with raised letters that say Chandlers that are also backlit, large raised letters. So that would be visible very, very clearly from the lake, possibly I-30, I think, depending on how big we make the letters. So that could be a really, become a really nice feature. There was an idea of possibly doing a mural there because of the sun hitting that and rain coming down it. We were thinking more of a solid color that we could easily touch up over time.
And then Dennis, if you're also referring to the retaining walls, the railroad tie walls and those, I know this is a hot button for David Wrightson. It's in the plans to replace all of the retaining walls and vegetation that's in need around the steps and both steps that go down from the parking lot to the pool and then from the pool down to the marina. So that's all in the plan to get all that replaced.
Okay. And then did you want to speak to, what the second part
Sure.
of the
Who
losses?
absorbs the
Oh, yeah,
losses?
loss. Thank you.
Yeah, the losses.
So KemperSports is the management company. What that means is we're not leasing, nor did we buy any equity in the facility. So the operating income and losses are part of the existing financial plan, meaning it's part of the Chandlers Landing Community Association,
Okay.
as it has been, right?
And-
Yes, as it
And
has.
then along with finances, Jason Potts at 320 Portview, curious as to the 2.5 million number. Is that a bid provision provided by the Rochon Group to complete all the work presented, or a roundabout number that includes all work as presented with a cushion for possible future improvements? Thanks to you guys for all the hard work and time spent. Visuals look great.
That's a great question, Jason, and thanks for asking it for clarification. So it's a budget number. This is right now is a construction estimate budget. There is some contingencies built into that number. Mershon is working now with their contractors and subcontractors to come up with a more firm bid for the work. We just finished the actual tonight, got the what we think is the final, or they think is the final architectural drawing. So from those takeoffs, now the contractors can give more firm bids for the work. Any funds, one option we have is if the bank approves the loan, if we wanted to do that, we could also use a portion, any overages that we don't spend, we would be able to replenish. Our intent would be to use that extra money to replenish the HOA reserves. If you recall, back in 2016-17, there were funds taken out of reserves to do improvements at the landing. We frankly struggled some months with that. So this would be an opportunity for us to use that money to replenish, given the low interest rates today. That would seem to make to be a prudent move. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, and then Miss Cindy Malik at 5910 Scepter Drive said, I do not think I heard or saw anything about improvements to the kitchen. What is planned in that regard?
Okay. You want to? Okay.
So in the kitchen, we worked with Kemper's kitchen expert. We actually will be taking a portion of, we'll be downsizing the kitchen a little bit to increase the size of the ADA compliant restrooms and put the elevator in. There will be some additional new equipment added to the kitchen. The actual line where, the equipment that's there has been analyzed. We'll be bringing in, at Kemper's request and recommendation, we'll be bringing in a firm to take a look at all the equipment, clean it, make sure it's all functioning properly. There are a number of new pieces of equipment that will be added to the kitchen. There will be one of the walk-in coolers will be removed. This actually, the city of Rockwell had asked us a few weeks before the fire to get rid of it. It doesn't meet their specifications. It's actually worn out, so that will be coming out. There will be some rearranging, if you will, of how the line operates for efficiencies, but additional equipment put in there for some of the large events. So I've now been able to figure out how you cook 150 chicken breasts and bring them all out at the same time. So those things will be added in. Those numbers for the kitchen equipment, also new equipment for both of the bars to make them more efficient, are included in our estimates.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and Julie Spokes Owens at 501 Clipper Court wanted to know if the pool will be if the pool is open, will there be a bathroom? I assume she means the upstairs bathrooms. not the
Well,
marina bathroom.
yeah, we'll have to, there'll be a period of time, obviously, if we open the pool, that we will have to rely on the marina's restrooms for a period of time here. Ultimately, once the construction is complete downstairs, the nice thing is, just with other modifications, we'll be able to have access to the downstairs restrooms, locker rooms during the time the pool's open, even if the club or landing is not open. So we'll be able to make, we have plans to make those available as just regular restrooms during pool hours.
Okay.
And Stacy Dyer mentioned, will they add boat slips for visiting, dining, drinking, for more boat traffic?
I'm sorry?
Stacy Dyer asked if we'll add boat slips for more visiting, dining, drinking, boat traffic. I've included that because
Yeah,
that's.
actually, we've invited the marina manager to come to the board meeting Saturday and give us an update of how we can work more closely together. The marina is making significant improvements to, they've dredged it last year. They've repaid part of the parking lot last year. They're getting ready to repay the rest of it next week. All of those are hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of improvements. And in their budget is to fix the outer breakwater that's been falling in. So they're making huge improvements. They're looking to us of how we can be good partners with them. And so we'll be talking about that.
So in that same line with that, Pam Dalton at 5407 at Rangers said the existing jetty is an eyesore and a safety issue, so that will be repaired.
What's that?
The existing jetty is an eyesore. From Pam Dalton at 5407 Ranger. She just wants to know if that's going to be repaired, so wedding parties and diners will have a better view. The jetty.
The jetty, yeah. Yeah, that's part of the long term, is improving the whole breakwater holding up. That is, yes.
And I believe the last one is from Jennifer Chury. Unless anybody wants to text in right now to 972-413-0083. We'll keep taking your questions. But Jennifer Chury asked, I may be wrong, but I know that Kemper is being paid $9,500 a month. So during renovations, are we going to still be saying for paying? I think she meant paying the same price. Are we committed to that every month?
Yes, that is their fee, and from what we have experienced as your board, it's been well worth every penny for the advice and direction and guidance we've been given. Even while we're under construction, they're going to be walking through that whole process with us. On top of that, and kind of happening concurrently, will be the hiring and training of staff and whatnot. So yes, they will be alongside of us through the entire process.
So there's one more that came in from Josh Deaton. Josh, this is probably meant more for the board meeting on Saturday, but he did ask to lower homeowner fees or zero them out for a minimum of 3 months until this thing is over. We have an opportunity to help our community, and we should. Let's make some hard decisions and let's some folks go and keep the ones that we need. I laid off everyone today at Sideways. That's a hard decision, but we as a community have an opportunity to help our community. He's at 5446 Ranger Drive.
Yeah. You know, it's always good to be talking about doing something like that, but our bylaws are very strict on what we can and can't do. The dues are set for the year, and the next time we can review it will be next year's board when they set the budget. Otherwise, our budget's set, it's in place, and there's really no way to modify it. There's no even provision to do that.
And then,
yeah, we also have covenants with the bank right now on the current note that prohibit us from making any changes to downward changes to the due structure. So Josh, I talked to you the other day. This is something that unfortunately we can't do that, and it's not legally feasible for us to do it.
any others?
Ann Welch from 124 Scepter. Ann sent in, I think you answered the approximate timeline on the updates for the total completion. What type of restaurant do we anticipate? Will it be better? Will we have committees that work on planned activities, or will Kemper handle that? Will Chandler still be open to the public?
Okay.
and I can repeat those.
Okay.
Based on who.
All right.
Yeah, like we presented earlier, that we're going to have programming, which will be used for bringing the residents in for special events and brunches and specialty dinners, craft beer dinners, wine dinners, etc. On a daily basis. It will be a restaurant. Our goal, as we set out in this renovation plan, is to make the restaurant appealing to a diverse group of neighbors and residents that wanted more from the landing, and those were all driven from the survey feedback.
Okay.
And I know one of your questions the other night during the focus group was about fine dining. That's certainly something we've had conversations with Kemper about. I'm sure part of their programs will be, not to put any pressure on Val, there will be nights, for example, where they may have a fine dining night,
Like a Valentine's dinner or something.
which we've had previously when it was a lure on occasion and things like that. So these are all things that we're working with them on, and I know we're all excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah, the programming will be as diverse as everything else. It will be from a more fine dining setting, like a Valentine's dinner for couples, all the way down to craft beer dinners, crawfish boils, those kind of things. Because we know there's a lot of different tastes in the community, and we want to appeal to the broadest amount of people that we can.
Okay. All right. Did we get all of
We
those answered?
did, someone did not bring a name, but they asked if we can do improvements to the grass and less weeds.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
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 On that note,
Resounding.
Yes.
Okay.
Resounding yes.
All right.
And that's it for my questions.
And it should be said that there were some questions that came in previously that didn't necessarily apply to this, and we will address it on Saturday.
Right. Any questions that were sent in previously, if they didn't apply directly to this, we're going to address those on Saturday. All right. So that takes us through the Q&A. No more? No more?
No more?
Okay. The next step would be a board vote, but I believe.
Yeah, so.
We got a lot of thank yous.
Oh,
Does
good.
anybody want me to read those?
No, we'll just read those
All
ourselves.
right.
So, so Mr. President, I would propose to make a motion to table any decisions regarding loans, approval of loans, or going to the bank to apply for loans, or talking to the bank about loans until Saturday during our regular board meeting.
I second that motion.
Scott seconds.
Yeah, Scott
All right.
seconds that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Well, we thank you for joining us for this corona-free version of Town Hall. And we're very grateful to be your neighbors and be here guiding you through this process.
Thanks for taking time out of your evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
So here's, this is from Dennis Lewis. Thank you all.